this is batting with Hirschy, and interviews Jim Allenby, who's played a lot of cricket, professional cricket, was in the Middle East and in England and Australia after a great win, the Premiership. And I'd just like Jim to talk about what he thinks is important on the build-up to be a professional cricketer.
There's a number of things that are obviously hugely important. I think throughout, certainly when I was younger, the discipline, the hard work, the hours you spend as a youngster are certainly are things that when you do become a pro cricketer, they're the things that you sort of fall back on. I don't think anyone sort of achieves much in pro sport without the initial sort of really, really hard work. There's a lot of hours spent sort of training, preparing that no one sees. And it's just really important that you are willing to do that hard work. It doesn't always have to be noticed, doesn't always have to be seen by other people, but it's really important you know yourself that you've actually done it. Because when you do get moments of stress or pressure in a game, it's that hard work that you fall back on that'll certainly help you to achieve things, whether it's, I guess, in cricket or any sport, but particularly cricket because it's such a long game. The process of getting good at it does take a bit longer than in other sports.
It's funny, Jim, John Tricos a couple of weeks ago was saying about some of the great South African players. They'd do training, but most of them, he said Mike Proctor would train an hour after and not talk about what he'd done, and that's what sort of you're saying.
Yeah, I think so. I think I'm always wary of people who have to tell everyone what they've done. They have to, tweet about every gym session or take a photo of every time they go to the nets or go for a run. I think those people tend to be a little bit insecure maybe, but the guys who just get on with it and just do things because they know it needs doing and they know it's going to make them better, I found those are the guys that have probably longer careers and a bit more consistent.
Right. Now, looking back for you, going to England, if you had your time again, would you? I mean, I remember seeing you as a young player, and you were a bloody good leg spinner. Was that the wrong thing to give that up, or did you?
I don't know if it was the wrong thing or not. I think I probably wasn't going to be good enough at it, considering the amount of time I spent on it. I think I always wanted to be a batsman. Tried to be a leg spinner, but I kept bowling double bounces and full tosses, so I was no good really. But
I wonder if going to England was probably. I remember Wasim Raja, the famous Pakistani. He bowled medium because he said the wickets were so slow. Was that right?
I mean, I probably bowled medium pace because my leg spinners were so bad. But no, the medium pace was always something I was always able to get a bowl really. I didn't really like just standing in the field and not contributing, so started bowling medium pace and got some wickets every now and again. And although it's not great on the old body, it certainly helped me keep a bit of weight off at times. So I was pretty happy I made that decision.
Why did you always remember in Durham saying, you're going to be a professional cricketer? Was it because you had so much desire to do that, or was that a dream?
I think it was always a dream. I think it was really frustrating to not have achieved that in West Australia initially. But I think I got to the stage where I thought, I have to have a crack somewhere. Nearly moved to Melbourne to have a go over there. But got the opportunity in England after a few years trialling. So I guess a lot of my sort of younger days when I was going through that process was trying to prove people wrong a lot of the time, which isn't always a healthy reason for doing something, but it certainly gave me a lot of, fire or whatever the word is, a lot of desire to show a lot of people that they were wrong. And I'm pretty happy I've got to the stage where I can probably sit back and say I've done all right.
One of the things I noticed, and probably talking about myself here, but I don't mean to be about me, but I can remember you saying when you were a young bloke, you wanted to play professional cricket, and I can remember playing at Durham City, and you're only a young lad, and you never used to make the runs you should have done, like 99% of the people. And I can remember saying, you've got to bat longer, and you said to me, you want me to block it? I said, no. But I can remember in the last 5 or 6 digs of Durham City, you were not out nearly every game or one. And then I knew you were ready to go to the next level. And I don't know, why did that happen? Was it just penny dropped, or?
Well, I think, if you hear something 20 or 30 times, you generally eventually listen to it.
Yeah.
No, it was very much, as an 18 or 19-year-old at the time, I didn't really understand what you meant. I probably, I think whenever you hear any criticism or advice, you can be quite sensitive to it. And I think I matured to a point where I realised you were probably right. And it didn't mean you had to be defensive. It just meant that you took good risks and made good decisions under pressure, which is 99% of the game, really. So, a bit of maturity, probably got in good form at the right time, and also just as you say, I was so desperate to win games of cricket. I knew if I was batting at the end most of the time, our team won, and that certainly made the evenings a lot more enjoyable.
Yeah, I think it's maturity as well. I think, you just learn. And I mean, Gary Island said to me it takes 5 years to be an A-grade cricketer. Well, I don't know what the time is, but that's, and I suppose at 18, you haven't played a lot of men's cricket, so it's quite young to make it. So it's just there. So again, anything you would have done, say from 15 to 18, that you could think could help some young person when you look back yourself, or?
Yeah, I mean, at that age, it's really hard to think about it now that I'm 35, but I was probably never fit enough as a younger player. I always used it as an excuse. I didn't want to do fitness because my skills were good, and I generally got some runs and wickets, so I was a bit lazy at times with that. I think the way the modern game's gone, you just have to be fitter. It should never be at the expense of your core skills, because that's 100% more important. But I think that some days where I could have probably done more fitness work rather than sitting on the couch or making some bad decisions or lazy decisions, I probably regret that, because it probably held me back in West Australia a bit, just the perception. So I think, when you're younger, you don't realise how much time you actually have. It's only when you get older and you get a family and a real job and things like that, you realise that you had a lot more time than you thought when you were younger. So you might as well have a red hot crack at it, whether it's batting, bowling, fitness, gym, whatever you're doing. As long as you're enjoying yourself, it's a shame to waste that spare time that we do have when we're younger.
We'll just finish off with this one now, but sort of jumping a little bit, typical bloody me, but when you look back in county cricket, is there someone that had a big influence, or someone just said something to you, or that made, in England, was it someone?
Yeah, I mean, I was unbelievably lucky to start in a change room at Leicestershire. We had Paul Nixon, who's obviously a friend of yours and a friend of many people. Just the most positive, vibrant, team-orientated guy I still know now. And he used to just think every situation, everything was going to be okay, and he never really, didn't dwell on failure. There's always just a chance to do well the next day. So learning as a young pro in a change room with a guy like that, just didn't realise at the time how lucky I was to have the influence of the man who's so positive and so team orientated was huge for me. Nothing particularly that he said, the way he acted and the way he went about things was something I noticed. And
was the coach good? Who was the coach?
Yeah, we had a very good coach called Tim Boone, very, very technical coach. But he spent hours and hours and hours. He if you wanted to hit at midnight, he would have had it at midnight. Not like many of us did, but he wasn't lazy at all. And to have a coach who's not lazy, to have a coach who puts the time and effort into you as a player is fantastic. And certainly in England, he was one of the best I've had. In Australia, John Tricos at the same time as a 17, 18, 19 to 20-year-old. We were the only club, I think, in Western Australia that trained 3 nights a week. I think we trained till 8 o'clock at the time, every night. And as a club and as a coach now, I look back on people like that and realise just how much of an influence they had. And especially my bowling, to have been able to have a career as a bowler is just because of the pure hours that John made us do at the time, really. And very lucky to have such positive guys around me.
He's an amazing coach, isn't he, John? What about, did anyone sort of help you bowling at the young age? Was it with you letting the ball go or something?
A lot of my bowling was all just based on volume, really. Dad obviously helped a bit in the backyard and in the nets where we spent hours. But all mine was all trial and error bowling, really. My bowling technique's never been amazing, but I've always found a way to swing the ball or seam the ball, and that's just from practice, really. I had a very good coach in England called Lloyd Tennant, who was a bowling coach, and the second I've been coach at Leicester, who got me signed, actually. And a fantastic man as well. So he helped with a few things, but it was always just having a guy that trusted me to be able to bowl, and Lloyd did at the time, was fantastic, really. And that's kind of pretty simple with me. It was all just repetition. I'd bowl 2-3 hours a night, and no one's really allowed to do that anymore.
It's funny though, isn't it? If you practice well, you generally always get better, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. And I think there's no substitute for volume, especially when you're younger. It's pick up good habits by doing the right thing over and over again. So I still believe massively is that's part of the game.
I've never seen them train, but I get amazed when the All Blacks play. You just know that they've trained well because you can't be that bloody good, and that comes back to anyone bowling one.
That's another very good influence at Leicestershire. Jeremy Snape, who's a sports psychologist and a very successful one. His mantra was always you don't practice till you get it right. You practice till you don't get it wrong. So he instilled that in a few of us too, and it's a very different saying. You can practice throwing a ball at a stump, and once you hit it, you stop, or you can throw 100 balls and you only stop when you don't miss. So that was a lot of fun.
And not many young people have that attitude, do they?
No, I don't think they do, but I look at the way people coach now as well, and it's bloody hard work to coach now. If you want people to spend an hour or two on something, you've got 10 players, and that's 10, 20 hours. So I think a lot of it comes back to the coaches not being quite as lazy, and I think players sure need to be led a bit more now than they used to be, but you also need a coach who's willing to do the work.
Well, that's brilliant advice, Jim. Really, it's good, and I'm sure people will listen to this, and thanks very much.
Absolutely.